All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. We are right smack dab in the middle of Black History Month. And many argue, myself included, or should I say, many believe. My dad, hold on. I was saying, my dad does this. My dad talks with his hands. My dad's birthday is coming up in about 2 weeks. But many argue and many believe that Black History Month should be celebrated. Well, it shouldn't be restricted to one month. Black history should go throughout the year. I believe that as well, especially in the sciences and in the STEMs. Over on my science and technology channel, I created content on the Black astronauts. There are about 15 to 20 Black astronauts. We never hear about them, just like we never hear about Percy Julian. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's kind of mainstream now, so you hear a lot about him. But there are just a lot of people and a lot of individuals that we hear about during Black History Month. And then there are others we don't hear about. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with hearing about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Sir Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, uh, Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson. There's nothing wrong about hearing about them, the many athletes and entertainers and civil rights activists and clergymen and clergywomen and politicians. There's nothing wrong with hearing about those individuals, but there are so many other individuals I think that we need to hear more of, such as Reginald Lewis, such as the Black astronauts, such as Percy Julian. Man of Tomorrow, Man of Tomorrow says, drop the link to the channel. Give me a second, Man of Tomorrow. Yet, Man of Tomorrow, I actually have three other channels. I have a sports channel, a science and technology channel, and an entertainment and media channel. So I yeah, I went with I think it's called a house of brands approach. So you asked for my STEM channel. Give me a second. Let me find it for you. I appreciate that. I could use more subscribers over there, and that's arguably my most important channel. I wouldn't mind becoming a science influencer one day, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. If that comes up. Yep, there it is. Give me a second, Man of Tomorrow. Yep, there it is. So you asked for it. I'm sorry, you asked for it. Here it is. And over there, I just talk about science. Though what I've learned is you have to be careful talking about certain science topics because YouTube doesn't want you talking about certain things. And depending upon which part of science you're talking about, you can get yourself in hot water outside of YouTube talking about certain things. And I will leave that there. Speaking of which, we're going to talk a little bit about basketball and soccer tonight. I'm sure you're wondering how is this all going to tie in to how is this all relevant? Basketball, soccer. Well, before I get into that, tomorrow night on my sports channel, because I do have a sports channel, we're going to be talking about the age-old question that you really can't answer. No one can answer this question. Over on my sports channel tomorrow night, we're going to talk about, in honor of His Royal Highness becoming the all-time scoring leader, we're going to talk about who the GOAT is. Right here, I have Michael listed, and I have LeBron listed in this picture, but I was reminded on Facebook earlier that there are others who are in the discussion as well, such as Magic, such as Kareem. I thought about Bill Russell as well, maybe Kobe, but I will post that on my community tab before I end this stream. I'm sorry, after I end this stream tonight, and then when we go live on my sports channel tomorrow night, I'll share it over here again, because I'm sure a lot of my subscribers over here like basketball and have strong opinions about who the GOAT is. All right. So with that, I'm going to play my intro, and then I'm going to jump in, hopefully talk for about an hour, and then I will jump off. Man of Tomorrow, thank you for being here thus far. I hope you get something from this, and whoever else comes in, I hope you get something from this as well. This is going to be a bit of a thought piece, and yeah, hopefully we all learn something here. Okay, I will see you on the other side of the intro. The super chat is live. Whoever comes in to watch this, the super chat is live. But if you want to make a donation via Cash App or PayPal, that information is here as well. You know what, man of tomorrow, since you mentioned my science channel, Malcolm Gladwell talks a lot about STEM as well and STEM education. So I might share this. I want to share this over there as well when the intro plays. So I'll see you all on the other side of the intro. All right, everyone, welcome back to Big Discussions 76. my original channel, first of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. So, everyone, today, or should I say tonight, because it's nighttime, this is going to be another Black history piece, though it might not be the Black history that you expect, but that's okay. Black history is broad. And as I described before the intro, it's not confined to the same set of individuals that are normally presented to us. So last week, I had an introductory discussion about the author, speaker, and writer, Malcolm Gladwell, who is one of my heroes. And it was an introductory discussion. It was after a work day when I had to go into the office, and YouTube, I think YouTube, well, at least on my end, there was some sort of glitch. So I couldn't access YouTube. So I started the stream late and I rushed through it. And someone from my alumni association was calling me. Well, the new treasurer was calling me about some financial business. So I was kind of being pulled in a bunch of different directions during that stream. So I wrapped it up early. But the good thing is, I always like to look for the silver lining in things. Some people in my personal circle might not agree with that, but the good thing is that there was so much meat on the bone that there was more that I could return to. And one of the lessons my brother taught me about video and about YouTubing is that you don't have to squeeze everything into one offering. So, as I'll describe, Malcolm has written numerous books, and there are lots of videos of him on YouTube. But he's written about lots of ideas and lots of topics and lots of principles. So maybe the better thing is to give each idea and each principle its own stream or video. So last week on my end, it felt a little chaotic. When I watched the replay, it turned out pretty good. But yeah, this will give me the opportunity to visit and revisit numerous things. So Sheet is here. Man of Tomorrow is here. Nation Today is here. You know, Nation Today, your question says, where's everyone at? There's a saying in media that if it bleeds, it leads. So this is not going to bleed. This is going to be information. This is going to be educational. So in the mainstream media and pop culture and here on YouTube, the more saucy and the more controversial topics, those tend to get the most traction. But when I think about Malcolm Gladwell, I think about brain food. So this stream is going to be brain food. So the thumbnail, before I jump in here, the thumbnail, that's a cartoon depiction of Malcolm, but this is what he looks like in real life. There, this is the thumbnail from last week's stream. This is another picture of him here giving one of his lectures. If you ever watch his lectures, he's usually wearing a button-down shirt or a sweater and khakis and running sneakers. And he's usually sitting with his legs crossed. He's very, very professorial. I'd like to meet him one day and interview him one day. That's on my wish list. So Malcolm, if you're watching this, uh, I'm a small fish, but I'd like to interview you. So those are images of him. I talked about the books that he's written, but let's go over that really quickly so you know that I'm not just blowing smoke here. Which books has Malcolm Gladwell written? Well, take your pick. There's David and Goliath. My mentor gave me that one. That was my first Malcolm Gladwell book. There is What the Dog Saw. Okay. There is Outliers. I have Outliers. I've read Outliers. There is Blank. And then there is the tipping point. And I believe his latest book is Talking to Strangers. So everyone, again, this is all brain food. This isn't celebrity gossip. This isn't uh, the toxic relationship dynamics. This is all brain food. This is for thinking scholarly people. Okay, these are for people who like to ruminate and think about ideas. Okay, two things before I hop in. I'll start with this one. If any of you are on Twitter, I've lost I've lost about 20 to 40 Twitter subscribers. I think the reason that happened is because I was followed. I think I was followed for a while by a lot of bots, uh, which with pictures of females and with forex trading and Bitcoin trader in their bios, and I was being followed by all of these people, and I didn't know who they were. And I think since Elon Musk took over Twitter, I think they've been cleaning that up. So I saw a sharp decline in my Twitter followership or subscribership, whatever you want to call it. But if you're on Twitter, please consider giving me a follow so my numbers can go back up. So my Twitter handle is that right there. Let me go to it. Oh, it's at Big Words Are Powerful. That's my Twitter handle. Right now I'm sitting at 550 subscribers. And again, I don't I've learned that Twitter can get you in a lot of trouble. All social media can get you in a lot of trouble. YouTube can get you in a lot of trouble. So I don't want the smoke. I don't like the smoke. So I tend to keep it pretty benign today. But please consider following me there if you're on Twitter. What that will help me do, and this is a nice segue into tonight's discussion. What that will help me do is to get the word out about my book. My book is entitled "The Engineers: A Western New York Basketball Story." I am wrapping up my edits and I am transitioning over into the promotion slash marketing phase. So when you're creating something of your own, especially in today's digital age, the larger responsible social media footprint you have, the better, because it's all about eyeballs, capitalism, selling something, creating something. It's all about eyeballs and exposure. So if you're on Twitter, please follow me. If you see something I tweet about this book or something else relevant, please consider retweeting it. So that's my book. So basketball, it's a basketball life story. So let's talk about basketball. Let's talk about strong links versus weak links. And let's talk about HBCUs. And let's talk about uh, what's significant about this strong link and weak link thing. Okay, so many of you might have surmised I got this from Malcolm Gladwell. So I don't, in terms of attribution, I did not generate these ideas. Okay, I am not trying to plagiarize his ideas. I'm merely acting as a fan of his and as an aspiring writer and well speaker myself. I'm merely acting as a conduit and I'm sharing the information. So I just want to put that out there. I'm not claiming to have come up with this, and that's a big deal in the YouTube streets. Who came up with this? Who originated it? Who's stealing what from whom? So I didn't come up with this, but strong link versus um, weak link paradigms and societies. There is a live stream, a link to a live stream in the description box, and it is entitled "What World Awaits Gen Z." So, what world is awaiting Gen Z? What world uh, is this younger generation? What are they going to be exposed to versus what we and our parents were exposed to? Sheet, I think your boys are probably Gen Z, right? Gen Z or Gen Y. They're not millennials because I heard that the millennials are turning. They're just turning 40 and they're in their late 30s. But that's a really good podcast. Malcolm's giving a talk. I think it's at Brain Bar. And again, he's on stage. He's got the hair, the glasses, the button-down shirt, the khakis, and the running sneakers. And he gives this talk on strong link societies versus weak link societies. And then he does a nice Q&A afterwards. Okay, and some very, very insightful things are said during that whole talk. I'll just give one spoiler here. It's below there. It's below in the description box in case you want to take a look. But one of the most impressive things, we said several impressive things, but one of the things he said was that the bar in our society has been raised in terms of happiness. And this is something that's been talked about here in the YouTube streets. And that's that the bar on happiness and what is a fulfilling life has been raised. So it's not okay anymore to just have a regular life. And what he was talking about was the level of unhappiness of today's young people. And he makes the argument that part of what's happened is that the expectations for what's a good life and a fulfilling life, all of that has been raised from what it used to be. It used to be okay to have a job and have a home and have a well, in some instances, have a family, but it was okay to reach a level of contentment. But today, it's about having more and doing more. I thought that was powerful. So, but he starts that talk off by talking about strong link and weak link societies. So if you watch Malcolm, if you listen to Malcolm Gladwell, he makes a lot of sports analogies, or from time to time, he will use sports as a model or as a metaphor for a larger discussion. And so for this particular discussion, strong link societies versus weak link societies, Malcolm compared and contrasted basketball and soccer. He made the argument that basketball is a strong link sport and soccer is a weak link sport. But actually, he did it, I think, in the reverse order. I think he introduced soccer first and basketball second. I'm a basketball guy, so I may have just inadvertently put the basketball first. So, what does this mean? Well, let's go back to LeBron and Michael, since I think most of us are more familiar with Michael Jordan and LeBron James as opposed to the recently um, deceased Pele. So in basketball, we all know if you're just coming in, please hit that like button. The likes are free. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. So we know that in basketball, in my book actually starts off seeing Michael Jordan hit the shot. But we know that in basketball, one player in many instances can take over the whole game. Okay, one player, one dominant player can control the whole game. And from the 1980s until now, you usually need 2 to 3 great slash good players to win in the NBA. And even in the levels below that, you need a few good players. If you have a roster of 12, you only need two to three good or great players to win. And LeBron James, for example, he can rebound the ball and then advance the ball and dunk the ball or shoot the ball himself without passing it to anyone else. The same is true for Steph Curry. Steph Curry is such a good shooter and such a good offensive player. He can typically carry the team on any given night. In recent years, well, last year when the Warriors won, their top players were Steph, uh, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. When KD was there, their top players were KD, Steph, and Klay Thompson. So that's basketball for the team to win, and I want to emphasize that. I was thinking about that before the stream. For the team to win on a roster of 12 to 13 players, you need two to three good players. Soccer is different. Okay, for soccer, your entire team needs to be skilled. I don't know if any of you have ever watched a soccer game. I didn't play soccer. I didn't really grow up with it. I never really gravitated to it. I wasn't fast enough to play soccer in terms of foot speed. But there's not a lot of scoring in soccer like there is in basketball and football. There's a lot of time is spent kicking the ball from end to end, and then a lot of time is spent just getting the ball close enough to kick it in the goal. So to play that sport, your players need to be fit, and most of your players need to be skilled, even your weakest players. And so Malcolm in the video in the description box below regarding Gen Z, he makes the argument that in soccer, the success of the team is going to be dependent not on the strongest players, but on the weakest players. So hence the term or the principles strong link versus weak link. In basketball, you just need a few studs. You just need a few alphas to win, and your other players don't have to really be skilled. But in soccer, everybody has to have a degree of skill. Strong link versus weak link. Okay. Now, why is that important and where does that apply? Why is that important and where does that apply? Strong link versus weak link. Who's commenting here? Okay, Sheet and Man of Tomorrow are greeting each other. Why does this matter? Where does this apply? The truth is, it applies everywhere. It applies everywhere. It applies across race. It applies across gender. It applies across social stratification. And again, you need to think about the team winning. For your team to win, is it sufficient to focus on the strongest few, or do you need to worry about um, strengthening the lower members of your team? And in the stream below, Malcolm makes the argument that we are now in a weak link society where our society, our team, will only win if we make an effort to strengthen um, the weakest among us. Do we see that happening now? Do we see that happening now? Where are resources for upliftment and empowerment going? Are they going to a select few, or are they being evenly spread out amongst different stratifications of people? Okay. Which groups are we paying attention to? Which populations are we focusing on? And for those populations and groups that we're not focusing on, what's happening to them and what are the consequences of us um, not helping and not focusing on certain groups. Okay. Well, the answer is that oftentimes when you do that, when you focus on a select few and you neglect the weakest among you, the entire team loses. Okay. Because in a weak like society, you have to empower the weakest among you. Wow, I see a lot of folks coming in here. I wonder if someone shared this. Someone with the nickname Master Teacher. Typically, when I see the numbers go up, someone's shared it, but folks maybe just roaming the YouTube streets and saw this and clicked on it. If you're just coming in, please hit that like button. Super Chat is live. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is here. I see Alicia has pulled up. Alicia, thank you for being here. T Riddler has pulled up. Alicia says definitely going to a select few. There, there has always been some gatekeeping. Yeah. So Alicia, this also applies strong link versus weak link. This applies in ways that a lot of people don't see right now. One is financial, but there are a lot of other ways that this applies. And I'm going to remain a little bit ambiguous and abstract on this. But if you take a look around, maybe if you think about some of the discussions here in the YouTube streets, you'll see that this impacts pretty much everyone and everything. Jay Bones, thank you for the $5 super sticker. I appreciate that. Jay Bones says he will be right back. Okay, I'm sure. Yeah, Jay Bones, I think he's a Notre Dame guy. So Jay Bones has probably heard of Malcolm Gladwell before. Malcolm, as I described, there are many, many videos and interviews of him here on YouTube. Oftentimes he's speaking at Google. Oftentimes he's speaking at Howard. I was watching an interview of him with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that comedian. He hosts his science show with Chuck something or other. But Malcolm's a bit of a rock star, and it's all about the ideas and the concepts and the principles. So let me see who else is commenting here. Yep, Notre Dame Irish to the end. Okay, strong link versus weak link. Is it sufficient to continue to empower the strongest of us, or is it more to our benefit to make sure that we're looking to empower the weakest among us as well? HBCUs. I'm going to end this one with HBCUs. I attended an HBCU, Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was well, it is because it's still in existence, but it was like a big high school, about 1,400 students. It was a culture change for me. There are things that are different about Southern culture in comparison to Northern culture, and so it was a bit of a culture shock to me to go to my HBCU, and it wasn't like going to Howard or Hampton. It was different, but it helped me get to the University of Michigan. But HBCUs. So several years ago, Malcolm, if you were following him on Twitter, Yeah, CJ Bones. Until my mentor, I went to Michigan, and Michigan, well, Michigan is not too shabby, but I had not heard of Malcolm Gladwell. Oh, Jay Bones, thank you. Thank you. I love the beer. Uh, I had not heard of Malcolm Gladwell the entire time I was at Michigan. I think he had just written Outliers at that point, so he was still early in his uh, book writing journey. He had written for the Atlantic for a number of years. But even when I got to DC and I got settled, I still hadn't heard of him. And it was my mentor, who will remain anonymous. He gave me a copy of David and Goliath. So I just think that there are so many segments and so many melanated communities in the United States who have probably never heard of this guy, just like they probably never heard of Reginald Lewis or the Black astronauts. But this is someone that I think our people would benefit from hearing more about, and just hearing the ideas and the critical thought and the analysis. So HBCUs. So a couple of years ago, because Malcolm had fallen off my radar for a little bit, I was following other things on YouTube, and I recently rediscovered Malcolm and his content over this last holiday season. But he went on a rant. He was going on a rant about the amount of money that was being donated to Harvard. And you guys know it. If you don't know, Harvard is in the Ivy League with Princeton and Yale and Dartmouth and Brown. And Malcolm was going on a rant on Twitter about the large sums of money that were being given to institutions, elite institutions like Harvard and Yale and Dartmouth and Brown. And he was basically making the argument. I didn't know what it was back then, but he was making the strong link, weak link argument. Why does it make sense to continue to give large sums of money uh, to schools that are already getting large sums of money? Does it make sense to keep giving them these large dollar amounts when you have these institutions over here who are just scraping by? Why would you give schools that are already swimming in cash more cash while there's a clear need for other schools over here to get some of that money? So he started really, really banging that bell, and ringing that bell and banging that drum several years ago. So for those of you who don't know, Malcolm also has a podcast called Revisionist History. I'm going to write this in the chat for you guys. I highly recommend looking that up. Alicia, thank you for the Cash App. I really appreciate that. I'm glad someone's uh, getting something out of this. Again, if it bleeds, it leads. This is more brain food. And brain food isn't always very popular. Um, Revisionist History. You could subscribe to that. But I left two of Malcolm's offerings from his Revisionist History podcast in the description box below. One of them is about US News and World Report. And for those of you who don't know, they rank our institutions of higher learning every year. So they give these very, very eloquent rankings of our institutions of higher learning every year. And students look at those rankings, parents look at those rankings, guidance counselors look at those rankings, and they determine whether or not the students determine whether or not they want to go based upon those rankings, and parents decide whether or not they want their children to go, and the guidance counselors determine whether or not to make the recommendations according to those rankings. So those rankings, they hold a lot of power, and they have a lot of influence. In that particular podcast, Malcolm interviews, I think the director or the founder of that ranking system, and they very eloquently break down what goes into those rankings. One of them, interestingly, is, well, two things that many HBCUs struggle with: alumni giving and the endowment size. So in US News and World Report, when they're ranking the University of Michigan and Harvard and Notre Dame and Stanford and Yale and UCLA, and when they're ranking all these big time schools and even some of the smaller liberal arts schools, one of the metrics or two of the metrics that they're looking at are financial: alumni giving and endowment size. And that's something that HBCUs notoriously struggle with due to paltry alumni giving. And it's interesting, years ago when I was writing for the Examiner, I interviewed a woman, Cheryl, is it Cheryl Brown? Cheryl, hold on, let me look it up. Let me look it up. Let me see if I still have it here. It was pretty high profile because she was partnered with Tom Joyner, and Tom Joyner has always been very, very proactive about, or should I say, dedicated and passionate about helping HBCUs raise money. Let me see if I have it here. Let's see. Tax cut. Okay, I'm going to show this really, really quickly. I wrote this piece. I don't know if I mentioned her in there. Let's see if I did. Let's see. Quotes. Quote. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I interviewed Cheryl Harris at that time. Cheryl Harris was I think she's still alive, a FAMU. Hold on, everyone. I'm getting the antenna thing here. Cheryl Harris was slash is a Florida A&M alumnus, and she was partnering with Tom Joyner for the quotes for education competition. Okay, and one of the things that I interviewed her, and one of the things we talked about is that many HBCU alumni, they go to the big football games, Grambling versus Southern, when Coach Prime was at Southern, no, Jackson State, it was Jackson State versus whomever. But folks turn out for that. Folks turn out for homecoming. Folks turn out for the step show. But when it comes time to open their wallets and donate back to their institutions, for whatever reason, HBCU alumni don't like to give back. And this has been happening for a while. We've known about this since Spike Lee's school days, but for whatever reason, alumni don't give back. And one of the secrets that Cheryl shared with me is that donors, corporate donors, don't want to donate if they don't see alumni giving back. So there's a whole snowball effect here. Alumni don't give back, corporate donors don't want to give, and then US News and World Report, they're giving HBCUs they're in part giving them low rankings because they don't have alumni donorship and support. So it's a really, really tough road to hoe. Let's see. What I think, and I'm going to end this up. I'm going to end this pretty soon. I think since Sheet is there, in the chat, I made the argument in this blog post that I think our HBCUs need to teach their students more about money and finance because, well, I'll just say a lot of us don't get it at home. She was the fortunate one to have learned about insurance at an early age, but a lot of us from Black families, we don't get what we need at home. And that's not to demonize mom and dad and big mama, but we don't. So I suspect that there's a low level of financial literacy at many of our HBCUs. And maybe they could benefit from Alonzo Hall coming and giving a bit of a tour. But in any case, revisionist history. One is in the description box regarding how U.S. News and World Report ranks the schools, and then the other one is focused on the challenges of Dillard University. So Malcolm went and interviewed the president of Dillard University, and you guys can listen to those if you want to. I would recommend that you do. I would recommend subscribing to that podcast. But the point is that we have a dynamic in our society, and probably in certain societies in the world, where we give more and we continue to give to those who already have a lot. And we forsake those who have very little and who could use those gifts more. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic. And so the question is, can the team win? Can your team win? Can your society win if you're only continuing to empower certain groups and certain populations? Okay. What does this have to do? I am almost finished with this book, and I'm going to wrap this stream up soon. I've told you all about this book, Men Without Work. This is written by Nicholas Eberstadt. This is the post-pandemic edition. If you look at that cover, you could see that's a trend line. So that's measuring. I don't know if this is fictitious or if it's actual data. There's a lot of data in this book, but it's a trend line and it's showing the employment numbers for men, and you can see it spike up during COVID. And we know that, well, the unemployment rate for a lot of people spiked during COVID. And even now, we're getting a lot of layoffs in the tech sector. But there's been a silent epidemic of prime aged working men who have just been opting out of the labor force. I think now people are starting to talk about it, but the question is why? What's contributed to this? One explanation is the economics of our country have changed. We've lost a good amount of our manufacturing, which has put more weight on having to go to school to pursue white collar education. And well, which then that leads to the question, well, it's been written about. I look up Dr. Warren Farrell and other education experts. Our current school system, in terms of learning styles, in terms of natural, in terms of biology, it seems that our current school system is better suited for girls than it is for boys. Boys have different educational needs and learning styles than girls. And sitting and reading and writing all day isn't necessarily the best environment for boys. So the question is, what's leading to something like that? What's leading to an increased amount of prime age working men opting out of the workforce? Does it have something to do with our education system? Is our education system has that turned into more of a strong link paradigm versus a weak link paradigm? So let me see who's commenting over here. Alicia says, I suspect, well, let me read T. Riddler's comment. He says, part of it is racism. The other stigma is, will HBCUs allocate the money in needed areas for the institution, or will administrators stuff their pockets and leave students in deplorable conditions? Well, it sounds like the whole Coach Prime thing. That was one of the, when he was at Jackson State, one of the issues there was financial. So I think that's a concern across the board for our HBCUs. Alicia says, I suspect it has something to do with the U.S. wealth data. Black Americans are largely flat economically, and Black nationals, BIPOC. I suspect that means biracial people of color don't have a vested interest in sustaining HBCUs. Okay. And tomorrow says, what's up, Jay Bones? Thank you for this generous super chat. He says, competition for the best is rough for HBCUs. I wanted to go to Tuskegee, but during preseason soccer at Notre Dame, the private jet to Spain won me over. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that would have won me over as well. Okay. So Malcolm Gladwell spends a lot of time talking about this strong link, weak link paradigm as it relates to elite institutions, because Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Notre Dame, those are considered elite institutions. I'm sure the University of Michigan is considered an elite institution as well. But does it make sense to keep giving schools that are rich more money? Now, I'm going to end with this because I'm almost at an hour and I've been sitting in this little corner all day staring at a screen. Before I went to go do my graduate degree at Michigan in pharmacology, before I did my doctoral studies, I actually pondered going to medical school. So I was actually contemplating going to be a medical doctor, and I was talking, yeah, at my workplace last week. This is a quick aside. I was at my workplace last week, and there was an aerospace meeting going on there, and I met someone there, and she and I were talking about how for kids of color, they don't understand the entirety of the STEM acronym. Okay, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. A lot of kids, particularly of color, all they see is going to medical school. So we were talking about that last week. Anyway, at one point, I was thinking about going to medical school, and I visited the university at Buffalo. I'm from Buffalo. I was home visiting for one of the holidays, or maybe even a semester break. And I went to the medical school and I said, "Hi, I'm Anwar Dunbar. I attend Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm thinking about going to medical school. What can you tell me about the University at Buffalo Medical School?" Well, one of the things the gentleman did, I don't even remember his name. He might have been the on the admissions board or a professor, but he pulled out a book and he looked up my HBCU and he told me, we evaluate numerous things, your GPA, your letters of recommendation, your MCAT scores. But he did point out that my HBCU was considered uncompetitive or non-competitive. Okay. It didn't hurt my feelings. I mean, it wasn't Notre Dame, J Bones. It was Johnson C. Smith University. It wasn't Harvard. It wasn't Yale. It wasn't Princeton. It was Johnson C. Smith University. And That's something that he said to me. I didn't know how he came up with that answer. I thought maybe it was the size of the school, the fact that it was an all black college. But these schools are being ranked in different ways, and finances are one of them. And some of these institutions are continuing to be showered with more and more money, and it affects things like their rankings. It affects the reputation of the school. It affects the experience that the students get when they're at those schools. So strong link, weak link. Does it make sense to continue to throw millions of dollars and billions of dollars at Harvard versus Johnson C. Smith or Southern or Morehouse or North Carolina Central? Does that make sense? And where where else is this happening in our society? Where else are you seeing the powerful continuing to be just more and more empowered, and the weak just being left to dwindle and twist in the wind? So everybody think about that. Strong link versus weak link paradigms, and strong links versus weak link societies. Strong link versus weak link. I think that wraps up all of my points. I'm going to end with one more spoiler from the Malcolm Gladwell video that's in the description box below, discussing what world, uh, what kind of world Gen Z is going to face once they get out into the adult world. One of the examples Malcolm gave was a hospital. There was a surgeon, a really accomplished surgeon, who was tasked with building up a medical hospital and a medical system. He focused on getting the most accomplished surgeons and the greatest technology in there, uh, the latest methods, all of that. And what he found was that the rankings and the opinions of his medical facility, they basically leveled off. So their scores kept leveling off. And what this top, well accomplished surgeon didn't realize was that the patients really cared about their interactions with the nurses. They really cared about their interactions with the orderlies. They really cared about their interactions with the staff, the technicians, the, uh, the the housekeepers, the stuff, all the stuff on the ground level. He was thinking about everything at the top, the most accomplished surgeons, the most high tech equipment, the most exotic medical techniques. But the patients were thinking about everything here on the bottom. So strong link, okay, versus weak link. Which part is more important for the team to win and the team to succeed? Okay, a little bit of food for thought and a little something for all of us to ponder. And where else does this apply in our society, in our world? What is needed for the team to win? Do you need three good players, or do you need the entire team to be skilled? I'm sorry, do you need two or three players to be skilled, or do you need the entire team to be skilled? Okay. Well, Malcolm lays this out much better than me. So I would encourage you, if you liked this, take a look at the link in the description box. There are several, but it is entitled "What World Will Generation Z Experience?" All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this stream up. It is 8 o'clock. Uh, we're at the middle of the month. Black History Month is almost over, but again, I believe that these things should be discussed throughout the year. So I'm going to do my best to keep sharing Black history and any valuable information associated with it throughout the year. T. Riddler says, this is interesting. America is structured to be a zero-sum game. Everyone can't win. That's one way to look at it. And yeah, many would argue that that's true. Maybe our society is set up to always have the haves and the have-nots. So maybe there's some truth to that. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Remember, tomorrow night on my sports channel, and I'm going to share this. I'm going to share the link on my community tab once I finish the stream. But tomorrow night over my sports channel, me and a guest, we're going to talk about who the GOAT is in honor of LeBron becoming the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. And it's Black History Month. We're going to talk about that. So I'm going to have a guest. We're going to do a short Q&A. And then if folks come over and there's activity in the chat, I will open it up so folks can come up and talk about who they think the GOAT is. And I'm going to update the thumbnail to add Kareem and Magic and Kobe and maybe some other guys, but we're going to do that tomorrow night. Asada. LeBron's followers are plentiful, and they are many. So I'm an MJ guy. I grew up watching MJ, so I'm team MJ. But the LeBron fans are certainly very, very loyal and dedicated. Ray Alexander has entered the building. He says, when you get an opportunity, could you interview journalist Roy Beck for an additional viewpoint on mass immigration? Oh boy, that's one of those sensitive topics that can get you into trouble. All right, Ray, I will take a look. Well, the other question is, would Roy Beck be interested in talking to a little fish like me? But certainly that's a compelling topic. It's it's something that's happening in society today, and yeah, it's very, very significant, the immigration. And I think it's important for all of us to know all sides of the immigration, how it helps, how it hurts, why it's good for us. Is it good for us? I think it's important to know all sides of everything. Ray Alexander. Oh, geez. Ray Alexander says, yes, he's talked with other influencers with small channels. All right. Let me write this down, Ray. Roy Beck. All right. All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap this stream up. If you haven't, if you're unfamiliar with this, I am an aspiring author. I am already a blogger, but many writers have their own newsletters. So please consider joining my newsletter. And thank you to everyone who has signed up. I think most everyone in this chat has signed up. I'm always looking for more names. Remember, when you're an aspiring author in this digital age, eyeballs and exposure are everything. So I send this out once a month, and I'm always looking for new names. And I've already started working on the newsletter for this month. The trick is always not making it too long. But this link is below in the description box. There's a 2-paragraph greeting. And if you scroll down, you just click that subscribe button, and it takes you to that screen right there. And you enter in your email address right there. And I promise I will not give it away to a third party. That's mean, that's rude, it's inconsiderate, and I would not do that. So everyone with that, okay, Ray's got some more. Ray says, when you get a chance, check out Immigration and Gumballs by Roy Beck on YouTube. Ray always has lots of suggestions. Okay, Ray, let me write that down. If I write it down, it'll get done. So Immigration and Gumballs. Okay. Yeah, it's a topic I will be careful about because it's a very, very sensitive topic. Oh, T. Riddler says, I saw his gumball presentation a few years ago. Great presentation by him. Okay, now I have to take a look. Now I'm sold. We have 2 endorsements here. All right, everyone, look out for the next one. I'm in talks with Mother Eva Doyle. Some of you have seen her on my channel. She's a Black history icon, and I want to ask her if Willie Lynch was real. If you look below some of my videos, you see some people contesting that and saying, no, Willie Lynch, that's a myth. Willie Lynch wasn't real. Willie Lynch was made up. I want to ask her about that. So she said she would she would reach out to me this week. I haven't heard from her. So if I can get her before Black History Month ends, or even after it ends, I would like to get her on to talk about that aspect of Black history and slavery. Toya H. No, it's just Toya. Capitalize the H. Thank you for stopping through, Toya. Always a pleasure. All right, now I'm going to end this for real. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, and I will talk to you soon. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude, and always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Oh, by the way, if you're watching on the playback, you want to donate something, that information is there, but you can also leave a super thanks. All right, everyone, take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.